Have you ever wondered what happens after the final heartbeat? Let me tell you exactly what I experienced in the moment my soul left my body and why, from that moment on, I was no longer afraid of death. Have you ever lived a life that looked perfectly fine on the surface, but deep inside, there was always an emptiness you couldn't explain? A good job, a loving family, a warm home, and yet, when night fell, you still felt like a stranger in the very life you built. I used to think I was living until I died, and it was in death that I finally understood what it meant to truly belong. I was an engineer, a husband, a father, a churchgoer. I worked hard, paid my bills on time, stayed out of trouble, stayed faithful, stayed responsible. From the outside, I was the textbook image of a grown man who had it all together. But there was one thing no one knew, not even my wife. Every morning when I woke up, the first feeling in my chest wasn't gratitude. It was emptiness. I didn't hate my life, but I didn't feel connected to it either. It all repeated itself: eat, drive, work, come home, eat again, sleep. And tomorrow would be the same. A loop dressed up in the name of stability, but stripped of meaning. I used to be a dreamer. When I was young, I truly believed I was born to make a difference. I would sit for hours beneath the tree behind our house, stare at the stars, and ask God, why am I here? But then life swept me up: college, graduation, a career, marriage, and children. Every right choice seemed to take a piece of me with it. Dreams were replaced by goals. Questions were tucked away behind logical answers. Feelings were buried under the title of being a strong man. And that's how I lived without really being in my life. I started feeling tired, not because the work was too heavy, but because every day was heavy. A kind of fatigue that had no name, couldn't be measured, couldn't be diagnosed. I just knew I felt like a machine, efficient, but soulless. My wife said, "You've been unusually quiet lately." My son asked, "Dad, why don't you play with me like you used to?" And I didn't know how to answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know where I had gone either. Until one day my body pushed back. Chest pain, shortness of breath. My heart was pounding out of rhythm. I thought I just needed rest. But that night, the pain came like a sentence being handed down. I lay there, suspended between two broken breaths, and in that fleeting moment, I realized I was dying. And what hurt the most wasn't the thought of death. It was the realization that I had never truly lived. I had never told my wife that she looked most beautiful when she laughed after dinner. I had never apologized to my son for raising my voice when he broke his phone. I had never reconnected with my college friend over a silly misunderstanding. I had never truly hugged my mother with my whole heart. I had never said, "I love you, Mom." I always thought there would be a better time. But maybe that better time doesn't always come. As my body began to go numb, I didn't see a light. I didn't see angels. I only saw unanswered questions once. If today were the last time I saw this world, would I leave anything worth remembering? If I truly disappeared, would anyone realize I was never really present? Death didn't come like thunder. It came like sleep. Only this time, I was certain I wouldn't be waking up. I don't know if you believe this, but the feeling of leaving your body isn't pain. It's release. So weightless, it made me ache with one quiet regret. Why hadn't I lived this lightly all along? But that was only the beginning. And if you think this is the ending, then you're just like I was, believing life could only be measured by time and heartbeat. But I came to see death isn't the finish line. It's the door. And that door is about to open in the next part. Can you imagine it the exact moment you die? Not the dramatic version from the movies. No blood. No screaming. No flickering lights. My death came quietly, like a feather falling onto the surface of a still lake. No warning. No climax. No final goodbye. It just happened. I remember lying on the emergency room bed. Cold white lights above me. The steady rhythm of machines. Doctors were shouting something, but the words were already slipping away. The world didn't go dark because I closed my eyes. It just felt like it was drifting, fading. And then, in one terrifyingly silent second, everything stopped. No heartbeat. No breath. No, I was as I had known myself. But I was still aware. I could hear every word they said. "We've lost him." I could hear the muffled sobs behind the curtain. And strangely, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't panicking. I wasn't trying to hold on. I felt light, as if I had finally slipped out of a heavy coat I didn't even know I'd been wearing my entire life. I saw myself, yes, saw my own body lying there. Pale. Still. Empty. The people around me moved like actors in a play I once starred in, but now, I was only the audience. I was no longer that man. I had stepped out. Have you ever imagined what it feels like to be completely free from gravity? To have every fear, every worry, every expectation peeled away in a single breathless moment? That was the first sensation when my soul left my body. Absolute freedom. I had no feet, yet I moved. No eyes, yet I saw. No mouth, yet I felt. It was as if I had become a wave, a pulse, a pure existence that no longer needed form. And then I felt myself being pulled, not yanked, but drawn towards something unmistakable. Toward a light. Not just bright, but alive. It didn't shine like a spotlight. It glowed like sunset over the ocean. Gentle, infinite, cosmic. It didn't come from one direction. It came from everywhere. It didn't call my name, but I knew I was being called. No words, no voice, just a knowing. A message that filled me, come home. In that moment, I felt something I had never truly touched in my entire life. It wasn't happiness. It was something deeper. A sense of belonging is complete and unconditional. No one was judging. No one was asking, "Who are you? What have you done?" The light didn't speak with words, but its presence wrapped around me and whispered something into my very being. "You have always been loved, even when you couldn't believe it." And I began to dissolve, not disappear, but merge. The boundaries fell away. The ego melted. All that remained was the overwhelming sense that I was part of something sacred, something so vast, so holy, that human language couldn't begin to contain it. I didn't know if this was heaven, or God, or the source. But I knew this wasn't the first time I had been here. It didn't feel foreign. It felt familiar. As if some hidden memory had always lived inside me, but had been buried under years of fear and forgetting. And now, with every mask stripped away, all that remained was my essence, a soul remembering the light it came from. In that space, there was no time. But everything was crystal clear. I felt emotions I had never fully understood while alive. I saw wounds I had buried. Sorrows I thought were long forgotten. I saw my father's eyes the moment I disappointed him. My mother's tears she hid when she turned her back. And I saw how many chances I had missed to love, to forgive, to simply be present. I thought I would be allowed to rest. But no. In this sacred place, I wasn't being put to sleep, I was being awakened. The light didn't hide anything from me. It revealed my entire life, not as a movie, but as a deep, felt experience, every action, every word, every glance seen through the emotions of others. I saw how my wife's heart ached from my emotional distance, even though I thought I had fulfilled my duties. I saw how my son felt utterly alone when I couldn't meet his eyes while he spoke. I saw a coworker wounded by a careless moment when I interrupted them during a meeting. These seemingly insignificant moments now appeared like open wounds never healed, never acknowledged. I collapsed not from judgment, but from being loved so completely, so profoundly, that there was no room left for excuses. No more I was busy. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. All that remained was the truth. I had lived, but I hadn't truly been present. I had loved, but never with the courage to fully express it. I had been given chances, but chose silence. And the strange thing was, the light didn't condemn me. It didn't shame me. It simply stayed with the gentleness of something cosmic, something maternal holding me, giving me space to break, but also space to rise. It felt like being cradled by the soul of the universe, a love so soft and vast, it needed no explanation. And then it spoke not with words, but directly to the part of me that never needed language. You are not being judged. You are being given a chance to remember. And I understood this journey wasn't over. Something even deeper was waiting. Something more real than death. Have you ever believed that death was the end? In the next part, I'll take you into that realm of light, the place where I encountered something so sacred, so beyond description, that no human word could contain it. And it was there, in that holy presence, that I was given a truth that would forever alter the course of my life. I used to read descriptions of heaven, skies filled with white clouds, golden gates, and angels playing harps in radiant light. But what I entered was nothing like what I had imagined. It wasn't a place you walked into. It was a place your soul is drawn to, like returning to something it had always been a part of. At first, there was only light. But not like the light from a bulb or the sun. This was light that could love. Yes, you heard that right. A light with consciousness. It saw me. It knew me. Not with eyes, not with ears, not with a mind. But with something deeper, with the essence of who I was. It didn't ask, "Who are you?" It simply welcomed me like a long-lost child finally home. I didn't walk. I floated through a sensation of weightlessness, yet complete fullness. I saw colors that had no names. Shades of green, gold, and violet that no earthly palette could ever capture. Each color felt like an emotion, a melody, a memory from the fabric of the cosmos. I didn't hear music, but every molecule of space seemed to hum with a gentle tone. And I found myself wondering, is this sound? Or is this the heartbeat of creation itself? I saw trees, but not like the tired trees lining city streets. These were alive, not just biologically, but emotionally. Every leaf seemed to smile, to wave, as if it had been waiting for me, as if it knew me. And in that moment, I knew I was not a stranger in this world. I belonged here. And then I didn't see Jesus. I knew he was there. He didn't need a form. He didn't need to be announced. His presence was so overwhelming, I couldn't have missed it even if I tried. But I didn't want to hide. Not out of fear, but because his love was so absolute, it left me undone. He didn't walk toward me. He didn't reach out a hand. He didn't need to. His mere presence wrapped around me completely, like a child, lost and now found. There were no questions. No need for answers. Just love. Unconditional love. Nuiefi. No but. No. I will love you when you're better. Just this. You are always loved. Those words were never spoken, but every fiber of my soul knew them. It was the kind of love that, once you've touched it, you can't go back to living the way you did before. I collapsed not in body but in soul. I couldn't withstand the transparency of that love. I saw every moment I'd ever been ashamed of. Every time I did it. Every time I'd hurt someone. And through all of it, he never looked away. He never turned his back. He never winced. He never judged. He still loved me. Not a fraction less. Not waiting for me to fix myself before loving me. I remember one moment so clearly. I was thinking about all the wrong I'd ever done. And I asked deep inside myself, could I deserve to be loved like this? But before I could even finish the question in my mind, a wave of gentle light poured into me like water through open fingers. And within it was a truth I could not deny. Love is not a reward for the deserving. It is what has always been, waiting for you to be still enough to receive it. I wanted to stay. Who wouldn't? There was no pain here. No loneliness. No time. No pretending. I didn't have to please anyone. I didn't have to be strong. I didn't have to wear a mask. I got to simply be the pure essence of who I was before I was ever wounded, before I ever failed, before anyone ever turned me away. I didn't see my deceased parents, but I felt their souls, not as forms, but as pure connection. Every soul here was radiant, without competition, without judgment. No one asked where you came from. They only welcomed you, as if you were the final piece of a sacred puzzle. And then I realized something profound. This place isn't far away. It's not on the other side of the universe. It's not light years from Earth. It's always been within us, hidden beneath fear, buried under wounds, present in quiet moments we rush past. It's not gone, just veiled. Like the moon, always there, even when the clouds cover it. Do you know what made me weep the most? Not joy, but regret. I regretted how long I had lived without realizing heaven had been present in every hug I refused, every apology I never made, every silent moment I skipped because I was too busy living. I remember whispering from the deepest part of my being, please let me stay, just a little longer. Let me dissolve completely into this love. And I truly believed he would say yes. But instead of a nod, I felt a different kind of vibration, slow, gentle, but unmistakably firm. A whisper that didn't make a sound but echoed through every part of me. Not yet. There is still something left to do. I didn't understand. Do what? For whom? I had worked all my life. I was tired. I had gone far enough to deserve rest. But the light didn't argue. It didn't push. It simply offered back a memory, a vision of someone I hadn't met yet, someone waiting to hear the very truth I was just beginning to receive. And I knew. I was going back, even though I didn't want to, even though my soul ached as if being torn from the place it had always belonged. But I understood this. True love never clings to keep someone close. It sends them into the world, into the need, into the call. Have you ever wondered why we return? In the next part, I'll share with you the reason why, even though heaven was home, I was asked to go back. And it was within that request that I finally discovered the purpose I had spent my whole life unknowingly searching for. I used to believe heaven was the reward, a final destination at the end of the road. But I was wrong. Heaven is a mirror, not to judge you, but to help you finally see who you are. And the most painful part isn't being condemned by God. It's being loved by Him, even when you can't find a single reason to love yourself. I wasn't shown my life like a movie playing in slow motion. I relived it moment by moment through the feelings of the people I had encountered. And they weren't my memories. They were their emotions. The hurt they hid. The wounds I thought were harmless. The eyes I once glanced past now pierced me like silent knives into the core of my soul. I saw myself at 6 years old, lying to blame my little sister. Back then I laughed. But now, I felt her sadness and confusion. Why would my brother do that to me? I saw a classmate being bullied, someone I could have defended, but I didn't, out of fear I'd become a target too. His loneliness didn't need words. It pressed into me like a stone on my chest. I saw my wife one ordinary evening. I had come home late, without explanation. She was slicing carrots in the kitchen. No tears. No anger. Just silence. But in that silence, I could feel it now. A small part of her heart broke. She thought I didn't notice. I thought silence meant everything was fine. But I understand now that every time I wasn't truly present, she was left behind. I saw my son on his 8th birthday, sitting and waiting for me to show up. I had a critical meeting. I texted him an apology. But I never saw the look in his eyes until now. It wasn't anger. It wasn't to blame. It was emptiness. An emptiness carved out by hope abandoned again. And I felt myself dissolve in that look. What hurt the most was this. I always thought I was a good man. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was just tired. Just busy. Just unaware. But here, there's no such thing as just unaware. Every cold glance. Every impatient word. Every time, I stayed silent while someone else was speaking. They all left marks. Not because I was cruel, but because I didn't love enough. And then, I was shown something I never expected, moments when I had done something right, but had long forgotten. A time I held a stranger's hand in the hospital. A time I split a sandwich with a homeless man without asking his name. A time I wrote a thank you letter to a teacher from years ago. Small things. So small, I barely remembered. But here, they shone like stars. Every act of love, no matter how small, radiated light. Nothing was meaningless. Nothing was too small to make a difference. That's when I understood. Heaven doesn't measure a life by achievements, perfection, or religion. It only wants to know, did you love? Were you truly present? Did you dare to lay down your ego long enough to step into someone else's heart? And in the moment I felt the smallest, I was loved the most. I wept, not out of shame, but because the gentleness of that light never changed. It saw everything. It knew everything. But it never withdrew its love. It never said, you deserve this. It simply held me tighter, as if to say, now you understand. And that's enough to begin again. I had never felt more real in my entire life. No performance. No pretense. No need to impress anyone. Just a soul wounded, full of regret, yet loved completely. Then a question rose, not in words, but from somewhere deep inside my spirit. If this love was always real, why did I live as if it wasn't? The question echoed like a loop. Every second I'd lived without love came rushing back, not to punish me, but to set me free. I began to understand why I was being shown my life this way. Not to make me feel like a failure, but to show me something greater. I always had a choice. And from now on, if I returned, I wouldn't miss another one. I wouldn't just do the right thing. I would learn how to love enough. I whispered, please let me stay. Just a little longer. Let me dissolve fully into this love. Let me remain here, where I'll never make another mistake, never hurt another soul again. But the light, once more, responded with a whisper I did not want to hear. You must return. There is still someone waiting to hear what you now know. I didn't want to go. I truly didn't. But I knew I had to. Because real love doesn't cling. Love lets go so others can live the fullness of their path. And I understood that everything I had just seen wasn't meant to be kept inside. It was meant to be shared. Have you ever wished you could go back and start again? In the next part, I'll tell you the moment I was given that second chance, and why coming back wasn't the end of my story, but the beginning of an entirely new life. I had dissolved into the light. Dissolved so completely that I no longer remembered who I was, where I came from, what my name was, or how many years I had lived. All concepts had fallen away. Only one feeling remained to anchor what was left of my awareness. You belong here. There was no time, no distance, no reason to resist anything. In that perfect stillness, I thought to myself, this is the end. I don't want to return. There's nothing more I need. I've tasted enough. Enough to let go completely. I didn't see the figure of God, but I felt a presence more sacred than any image I had ever believed in. A source of love wrapped around me. It didn't bind me. It didn't threaten. It didn't say you must. It simply asked a question, soft as a bell ringing in the sleeping chambers of my soul. Are you ready to love? I choked. Strange, isn't it? To have no body and still feel that lump in your throat. Because I knew returning meant returning to pain. Returning to a body that had failed me. To a world of people who might never understand me, who might still hurt me. It meant becoming human again, with all the mess and noise and fragility I had once wanted to escape. I silently pleaded, please let me stay. Don't send me back. I'm afraid. I'm weak. I don't think I can love like this in that world. I'll forget this peace. I'll get angry again. I'll hurt again. I'll disappoint myself all over. But the light didn't argue. It didn't push. It simply showed me something, one single image, projected straight into the heart of my soul. A man I had never met, sitting on the edge of a bed, his head bowed, holding a letter he never sent. In his eyes was the same darkness I once lived with. And without needing logic or language, I knew this man wouldn't make it, unless I returned to share what I had seen. I didn't know his name, but I recognized his pain. It was my pain. I saw that he didn't need a preacher. He didn't need a polished sermon. He needed someone brave enough to say, I died. I left. And I came back to tell you that you are loved, even if you can't feel it. And in that moment, I understood. The life I once lived, even if dull, even if repetitive, even if seemingly meaningless, was the place where my soul had been planted to sow something. Not something grand. Not something history books would record. Just a word. A look. A presence. And that, somehow, was important enough for all of heaven to whisper. You're not done. I wasn't pushed. I was given a choice. But it was the kind of choice you can't walk away from, because once you've seen what happens when you stay silent, it's no longer about returning or remaining. It becomes, will you live true, or will you live hidden? I bowed my head, not in fear, but because for the first time in my entire existence, I understood that life itself is a sacred privilege. Not a burden, not a punishment, not a string of obligations. Life is a divine invitation, a chance to choose love in a world that may never love you back. And I said yes, not with my mouth, but with the entirety of my being. I will go back. But please, don't let me forget what I've seen. The answer didn't come in words. It came as a warmth, flooding over me like a mother's hand calming her terrified child. And I knew I was about to leave that place. Not because I was being rejected, but because I was being sent. Sent into the pain to carry softness. Sent into the broken to breathe something whole. Sent into the ache of the world to become a quiet breath of peace for someone else. I didn't see myself return. I didn't travel through a tunnel. I didn't float above my body. It was more like a collision, then a scream, then the blinding hospital lights, the beeping machines, the chaos of hands and voices and monitors. And suddenly I was back, in the old body, with the old heartbeat, with a breath I had not earned but had been given, like the most precious gift imaginable. But I knew I was no longer the same man. That version of me, the one who lived half asleep, had died. The one who was sent back had seen something sacred. And now, it was his mission to live like someone who had walked through the light. Have you ever felt like you haven't yet finished what you came here to do? In the next part, I'll share what happened after I returned, and how I've tried to live every minute like I just stepped out of heaven, knowing that not a single second is random. Waking up after my heart had stopped for over an hour, people expected me to be overjoyed, emotional, maybe even break down in tears, and hug the doctors out of gratitude for being alive. But I didn't. I woke up in silence, and only one question echoed in my mind. How am I supposed to live the same life, after I've seen heaven? I lay there, my hands still ice cold, my body heavy and unfamiliar. A nurse leaned in to check my blood pressure, her face a mix of surprise and suspicion. But I wasn't paying attention to her reaction. I was facing something far more difficult than dying, coming back to life with a heart that had been remade. Everything felt familiar, yet strangely distant. The pale hospital light, the sound of steel carts hitting the walls, the sharp scent of antiseptic, it all felt like watching an old movie where I had once played the lead, but was now only an observer. My body whispered, "You've returned." But my soul replied, "You are no longer who you were." My wife rushed in after being called. She held me, crying, saying all the things I used to long to hear throughout our marriage. But for the first time in my life, I heard her with my soul, not just her voice, but the frequency of love in every sob, every trembling squeeze of my hand. She had no idea what had just happened to me, and I couldn't explain it all, not yet. I only knew one thing for certain. Every person, every embrace, every single moment mattered more than I had ever realized. In the first few days after regaining consciousness, I didn't speak much. I listened. I watched. I touched as if experiencing everything for the first time. I watched my son eat breakfast, and for the first time, I noticed how he was growing, moment by moment, whether I paid attention or not. I held my mother's hand, a hand that had aged more than I had realized, and for the first time, I saw all the years she had loved me quietly, in ways I had never noticed. I used to preach. I used to explain, to defend, to argue. Now I stay silent more often, because I've come to understand that sometimes a quiet presence can heal more than 1,000 words. I started calling old friends not to talk, but to listen. I apologized to my wife for all the years I had been emotionally absent. And I wrote a letter to my son, not to teach him morals, but to tell him about the unconditional love I had once felt and will never forget. I didn't need to change careers. I'm still an engineer, but I changed how I show up. In every meeting, I started looking at the person across from me, as if they might not be there tomorrow. I stopped interrupting. I stopped needing to be right. I began noticing the little things, who's smiling sadly, who speaks a little slower, who's pretending they're okay. Not to fix them, but to simply be present. Every morning I step outside, take a deep breath, and remember the light. I don't see it anymore, but I remember what it felt like to dissolve into pure love. And I know now my mission isn't to tell people about the miracle I saw. It's to become that miracle for someone else. You might ask, how do you live with this kind of experience and not shout it from the rooftops? I do tell it, just not in speeches. I tell it in small, quiet ways when I stop in the street to help someone carry groceries. When I look at my son, like he's the most sacred gift I've ever been given. When I step back in an argument just so someone else can feel heard. When I choose to love without needing anything in return. Someone once asked me, did you convert to a new religion or something? No, I didn't need to change my religion. I just needed to live it by making everything sacred. A meal, a hug, a glance, a child's whisper of, I love you, Dad. A single breath. Everything is light if you're still enough to see it. One time, I was invited to speak at a church by an old acquaintance. As I stood there, I saw a man sitting in the last row. His face was worn, his eyes cold. He didn't look at me, but I recognized him. His eyes carried the same emptiness I had once seen in the light. He was the one I was sent back for. And I only said one thing. If today your life feels meaningless, then hear this. Maybe you've never been loved the right way. But you have always been lovable, from the very moment you were born. His eyes filled with tears. No one clapped, but I knew a soul had just been touched. Life didn't become perfect. I still lose my temper. I still get tired. I still make mistakes. But when that happens, I don't run from it. I pause. I remember. And I whisper to myself, I'm still alive. And I still have one more chance to love. Have you ever wished for a fresh start, not by erasing the past, but by living differently starting today? In the final part, I'll share what truly changed when I began living with awareness and why I believe we don't have to die to touch heaven. People often think a near-death experience will turn you into someone completely different. That's both true and not true. I'm still me, same name, same job, same familiar house. But what changed is how I live every single second. I no longer live just to avoid death. I live as if I've been born again, with a heart set ablaze by something I once thought I didn't deserve, unconditional love. The morning I was discharged from the hospital, I didn't rush home. I stopped at a small park where no one knew my name. I sat on a bench, looked up at the sky and cried. Not from fear, but because, for the first time, I watched a single leaf fall and didn't feel sad. It drifted down with such peace, as if it knew it was exactly where it was supposed to be. That's what heaven taught me. Everything has meaning. Not in a rigid, predestined way, but in this way. If you live fully present, even pain can become the doorway that brings you back home. I started choosing differently. Not with a to-do list, but with presence. Each morning I ask myself, if today were my last, how would I live it? That question doesn't scare me. It resets my heart. I say, I love you more. I hug longer. I slow down. I eat slowly. I listen to music slowly. I watch the sunset as if it's the last one I'll ever see, not because I fear death, but because I cherish life. I look at my son when he talks. I don't glance at my phone. I don't nod while half listening. I let him know, without question, you are more important than anything else. I smile at strangers not to be polite, but because I don't know if my smile might be the only thing that gets them through the day. I no longer pray the way I used to. I don't ask for more. I simply whisper, please don't let me forget. Don't let me forget the light. Don't let me forget that every person I meet carries some kind of wound. Don't let me forget that life doesn't wait for us to be ready, or rested, or calm. Life is happening right now. People ask me, aren't you afraid of dying anymore? I smile. No, but I am afraid of living without truth. I'm afraid of repeating each day on autopilot, only to reach the end and realize, I was never truly here. I don't need more money. I need more quiet afternoons sitting next to someone I love, saying nothing yet feeling everything. I don't need recognition. I need each person who crosses my path to feel just a little lighter after we part. I know I'll mess up again. I'll get angry. I'll forget. But I don't judge myself anymore. I just gently remind my heart of one simple truth. The light is still there, and I can return to it anytime I choose. I'm not sharing this near-death experience so you'll admire me or envy me. I'm sharing it because I believe every one of us has brushed against that light. Maybe in a dream. Maybe in a moment of deep loss. Maybe when you finally let go of something you thought you couldn't live without. And in that sliver of time, you knew without words that something greater, deeper, truer was calling you to live differently. I didn't come back to preach. I came back to bear witness. Not to death, but to life. To say this, love is never wasted. Listening is never too late. And simply showing up fully, quietly, is the greatest gift we can give. You don't have to die to see the light. You just have to stop, look, breathe, and ask yourself, am I really living or just existing? I'm a man who was dead for 1 full hour, and I can tell you this, if you're still breathing, then you are still loved. And you can still love, right now. If you've ever gone through something that changed the way you see life, maybe a near-death experience, a sacred moment, or a dream you've never forgotten, please share it in the comments below. Not to prove anything, but to pass on the light you once touched. Because someone out there needs it more than you know. And maybe, just maybe, you are the doorway they've been waiting for.